Okay. Please use the chat. I'll do my best. I'm going solo here today, so Melanie is not here today, but she's really excited to hear from me how today goes. And of course, we work really closely together. My name is Jane Armstrong. I work at the Department of Education in the Office of Teaching and Learning as the ESOL English for Speakers of Other Languages State Specialist. So I'm really excited to be here and to work with you all today in this topic. This slide here is just, again, a reminder of the mission and vision of the Department of Education. And we also really focus on the role of collaboration and shared responsibility. And we try to mirror and model what we're asking within the local education administrations, the LEAs that we call, and really think about the state agency and the role of what a state agency does relative to what the work holds. And so you can see that there's this constellation of offices and teams. Some of them you might have worked with, reached out to, and that's our job here at the Maine Department of Education, is to do that collectively as well. So what we'd like to just level set with today, and for some of you, this is review. We're not going to go into it in depth, but I do want to highlight some of the resources we have. And so this idea of why multilingual learners, there's a lot of reasons why you all are here. And some of the reasons at the Department of Ed, we really think about what are our data-driven decisions that we make, and how do we prioritize areas that we feel like we need to focus on. And so with multilingual learners, the data is very compelling, and we encourage you to not only look at your local data, but we look at state level data, and then we also look at national data. So in our state, we have a data dashboard. So some of you might know about the data dashboard. What's really important is that this is dynamic, it changes, this is updated yearly, but this is also something that is statewide. So in looking at this slide, you might say this mirrors exactly the situation in my district, or you might say it does not. And this is also something that is really important to look at grade level and what we notice. So this is dynamic, this is self-reported, top 5 home languages of multilingual learners by grade level for the 24-25 school year. It is contextualized because we need to know our students and families and their linguistic identities and how that impacts their engagement, the instruction that we do, and the sense of belonging. So we just want to really encourage folks to access this data dashboard. There's more than just this element. The data dashboard also really shows us where multilingual learners are relative to all students, and where are multilingual learners enrolled across our state. So sometimes the story is it's a Southern Maine story. It's not an entire state of Maine story, and that is not accurate. And so this map has changed. It's changed since the last time we created this graphic. There are more blue dots representing enrolled multilingual learners. Looking at all students across our state, these numbers are in decline as the multilingual learners enrolling in our state over the course of the last 6 years have been steadily increasing. It's a really important fact to note. So depending on the audience we're with, I work with superintendents who are working with school boards. Why does this matter? And how do we proactively think about staffing, funding, and instructional models and high quality instructional materials that are inclusive of all the students that we have in our schools today? This is why we need to be talking about multilingual learners, programming, and essential understandings of language acquisition and instruction in the classroom. The ethno-racial diversity of Maine is really important to also highlight. This is state specific. It highlights the intersection of race and multilingual learner identification in our state. It's unique to Maine. There's not another state in the country where this is mirrored. So this is something, again, to take pause, and it's dynamic and it changes. But why this is important, the decisions we make, representation in our curriculum, in our classrooms, in our staffing, this is important to recognize as well. This is all available, as I said, on our data dashboard and is available to you to look at. So let's talk federal level. Why multilingual learners? This is really important. It just came up in our all Department of Ed staff meeting with our Commissioner of Education, because there are a lot of things that have been going on over the last year from the U.S. administration. So I'm going to mention a few, and we're going to talk a bit about what's called the Dear Colleague letter in a minute. And I'll ask you to put something in the chat about that. So just in review, U.S. administration over the last year revoked a policy memo declaring schools a protected area from immigration enforcement. Some of you might have experienced that over the last few months and working with families and students where this was the case. Over the last year, the U.S. administration's laid off almost all the employees in the federal office that's dedicated to English learners. That office is called OELA, Office of English Language Acquisition. The U.S. administration has also withheld federal dollars intended for English learners, specifically Title I and Title III. Those funds were eventually released. Those of you who are administrators on this call, you understand the tension and concern that caused, not knowing whether you would have those funds to enact what you had planned to do with staffing and programming. What we now know is that that's a signal for future funding for the 26-27 school year. And there was an executive order declaring English the country's official language. So this created a lot of confusion, a lot of emails to the Department of Education. What does this mean? Does this mean we need a 660 endorsed teacher? Are we obligated to provide multilingual programming? Do we need a LAU plan? And so here's where we need to pivot and really understand what is an executive order and what is federal law and what is state law. And so we're going to have a little background on some legal pieces, and not to overwhelm you, but just to inform you so that when you're in conversations and you're at the table, you have accurate information. So this is an example or a screenshot of a letter that was written over 11 years ago. It's called the Dear Colleague letter. It was written in 2015, which is now 11 years ago. It's a 40-page letter, and it was written to state education agencies, local education agencies, and schools. So just if you could put in the chat, just for level setting, yes, I've heard of this letter, or I've read it, or I've seen it noted, or I've never heard of this letter. So just throw that in the chat if you don't mind, just so that we can get a quick level set of people's background knowledge. Great. So I'm looking through, and I'm also admitting some folks in at the same time. I'm looking through your comments. So interesting, right? Like, I've seen it in passing. I've never heard of it. Yes, I've heard of it. I know it intimately. I've read it. So this is typical, right, in our field. It's just people have varying experiences and exposure to the work. And so understanding that has been very helpful, just like what we do in the classroom with our students is like, where are people? And not making assumptions about what people know or they don't. And so this letter, I will put in the chat. I really would prefer that you don't read the 40-page letter right now, but if you want to later, you can read it. There is also a fact sheet, which is really nice because it takes the Dear Colleague letter and it condenses it to a 2-page fact sheet, which is to your right. And essentially, this purpose of this letter, written 11 years ago, is to remind us of the legal obligations that we have under the federal civil rights laws, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act and the Equal Educational Opportunities Act. to ensure that the multilingual learners that we have can participate meaningfully and equally in educational programs. So really the impact of this letter, it really turned equity for multilingual learners into a compliance expectation. And it wasn't just around best practice, or you might consider, or maybe you could. It really took this language and it made it clear, it made it actionable, and it created the guidance that people were looking for. Because Title VI civil rights law is very cross-cutting and broad, and people really wanted to know, what does that look like in a school? I'm a building principal, I'm a superintendent, I'm an ESOL teacher, I'm a content teacher. What does this mean? So this letter became the basis for enforcement, for audits, state and policy updates, because it was organized and written by not only the Department of Justice, but the U.S. Department of Education and the Office of Civil Rights. And it really was this opportunity for us to all level set and give us the examples. And we reference it all the time in our field. So here's what happened. In August of 2025, the U.S. Department of Education rescinded it. And again, once again, we get the flurry of emails. What does this mean? Does this mean that we no longer have to do these things? I'm really worried. I'm concerned. And so what this did was, again, it took this off the table. And you can see in the little red print at the top that it remains available on the web for historical purposes only. But what's really, really important to understand is that the Dear Colleague letter was never law. It was guidance. And so what still remains and what's really important is that even though it's been rescinded, it does not negate the federal law and our state statute in the state of Maine, which is good news. We live in a state that has a Human Rights Act, which was enacted in 1971. So another good news, here we go. On our website, with the approval of the Attorney General, Melanie and I were able to get this put onto our website, on our Multilingual Learner website, really to ensure that we are all on the same page, that we know that although that this Dear Colleague guidance was rescinded, that these protections remain, that we have obligations to provide appropriate language assistance services, to remove those barriers so that participation for students can happen, and that there's not a discrimination on the basis of national origin or language. And so this is in service of equitable access to ensure that no matter what your linguistic background is, whether your immigration status, you belong here. We need you and we want you, and we're going to be poised and ready to do the best we can to educate you as multidisciplinary teams and leaders across our state. So I really wanted to just be sure that we all understood this, because it's been very confusing. And I just wanted to take a minute and pause and say, if you have a question, please come off mute. If you have a question, put it in the chat. I'd be happy to answer it. And I think, Tori, you had asked about a percentage. That's going to come up on the next slide. But yes, great memory. Most of our SAUs have fewer than 50 multilingual learners in them, almost 87%. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so I'll just know that if there's any question along the way, or a comment or a thought, please put it in the chat. And also you can come off mic or mute whenever you need to or want to. But the idea is that, we're in a great state, and we, meaning a great state, in Maine. And so we need to know that what we do is upheld, and that we have obligations, we understand what they are, and you all are here to ensure that no matter where we are in our role and responsibility, we have enough background knowledge to know what we need to do. The geographic equity for multilingual programming is really interesting across our state. We bucket it in kind of these high incident, more than 100 multilingual learners in the school administrative unit, mid-level and low incident. And about 88% of those have fewer than 50 students in them. No matter what size you are, all three of these aspects of multilingual programming apply and need to be upheld. And that's really challenging in a state with high levels of what we call rurality, where there are low numbers of multilingual learners. It might be hard to find staff. It might be hard to find, to have adequate programming. You might not be able to have a cultural broker or to have an in-person interpreter. Regardless, we are obligated to uphold all of these, to identify and screen in a 30-day time window, to provide instruction with evidence-based curriculum, explicit systematic instruction, a 660 endorsed ESOL teacher, collaborating, working with all staff, assessment, the required assessment, which we just closed our assessment window for the required English language proficiency assessment. So this is the challenge. And this is why having you all here in your roles and responsibilities is the only way forward. We can never just do it alone as multilingual teachers. We need everyone to have an understanding and awareness, because we want our students in and amongst every single one of you across your roles and responsibilities. So just a reminder about Allow Plan and reminding folks that every district is required to have what's called Allow Plan. It's school board approved, and it's essentially your blueprint, your obligation toward how are we going to have equal access for students who are in the process of learning English. This was predicated on a court case, Supreme Court case from 1974. So again, we recognize that a lot of these protections come from law, and they come from opportunities where we learn what we need to do and do them better. And so this is the enduring aspect of Lau v. Nickel, which is every district has this. It's public record. It should be accessible. And so oftentimes we get questions, I don't know if we have a Lau plan. I've never heard of that. So the charge here is to say, ask. Ask your building principal. Ask your superintendent. Go online, look for it, and see what the plan says for what you are obligating your SAU through the school board approval to do. And so it's an exciting piece that sometimes we overlook because sometimes they're old and they need to be dusted off and they need to be updated. And that's what a lot of people are doing now. Many of you on this call I've had conversations with. So this, again, is another assurance, and we need to know that we have these. And the last thing I would just share is that we have a really growing website full of some really strong resources that we're trying to arm you all with, so that you can feel like if there's something that you want to know more about, we just want to encourage you to go to the website. There are things here that are templates and guidance. There's tools, there's references. And again, I think having been at the local level for a long portion of my career, the charge here and the challenge is that you're trying to make things that are relevant for everyone in our state. So sometimes it's a bit general. And the goal here is that you take the general and you put your own local print on it. You make it better. You make it more specific. You co-construct. So I really appreciate when we get technical assistance. I really appreciate when someone sends me something and says, what do you think? We're doing this at the local level, because it gives us examples of what you all have done to take these more generalized templates and guidance and documents and make them even better. And part of what we wanted this cohort to be is an opportunity for you all to crowdsource, to support each other, because that's another thing that we've heard, is that people want more time to be with each other and learn from each other. So with that, I'm going to have us pause, and I'd love for us to think about and have some time in the breakout rooms to just think about what was just shared, anything that resonated with you, to reflect, to react, and also to take a peek at the Padlet. And was there a resource from the last session that you looked at, you used, that you might want to share with the group that you're in? So I will pause there. Any questions or thoughts before we go into breakout rooms? So I will open up the rooms. You'll be automatically put into rooms, and I will broadcast time to come back. And I would say that we're going to take about 10 minutes to just be together in community in the breakout rooms. And then when we come back, we'll have time to share out anything that surfaced from the groups. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. And really nice when it's like people are right down to the last little second of their breakout room before they come back. So just wanted to take a minute here to encourage anyone, if you want to come off mute and if you want to share anything that surfaced in your breakout room that you think would be helpful for the rest of the group to hear, we'd love to hear from you, or you can put it in the chat.
Something that we were talking about in my breakout room, we were sort of in all different geographic areas, which was interesting. Someone that taught at Deering, someone that taught in Bath, and then I'm in Farmington. And I was sharing, I'm on a listserv for rural ESOL teachers that I've found really valuable. And I really appreciate too these structured DOE PDs. And I'd love to do something once a month where it's office hours or some opportunities to connect. And that might be something that's already out there and I'm just not aware of it, but I really value the opportunity to get to talk with other people doing the same work. So
great. Thank you, Tori. And I feel like that has been a sentiment of teachers for a long time. And I think it's even been more increased since the pandemic and being remote. So thank you for that. And I think that office hours, there have been structures for office hours, and I think figuring out the time, and also some people like it to be organized with a topic and others like it to be informal. So I think that recognizing how do we do that, and then how do we create sustainable, what we would call cadres that can be self-sustaining, so that it's formed and then you slow release type of thing. So thank you, and really open to that, and always feel free to reach out, because if you have ideas, I think the Department of Education is really interested in making that happen.
I guess just to tag on that, for those of us in smaller districts that don't have a huge population or a huge staff, I was thinking about resources I'm trying to build for my content teachers, my regular education content teachers, and I assume other districts already have beautiful cheat sheets or beautiful things that they've created for their regular teachers. And instead of recreating the wheel, I would love to borrow or use or ask other districts if there are things that we could borrow or use for our staff.
Great. Thank you, Gretchen, for that. And can you remind me where you are, Gretchen?
I'm in Cumberland.
In Cumberland.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I'm on the rural TESOL listserv, and all the time, anytime someone needs to know something, they say, does anyone do this, or does anyone have an idea for this? And people are always responding right away. So I don't know, if you're not on it, it's a great thing to be on. I'm not sure how to, there's somebody who signed you up though, so I'm not really sure how you get on it.
So maybe Heather, maybe later we can get that information and we can share that with the cohort, because I think that would be a really great opportunity. I
do have a question, something we talked about. I've been hearing a lot of chatter about 3 through 5 being served by the public school starting next year, maybe, or at least a little bit. Is that going to change? Like, are we going to start having like 3 and 4-year-olds that need multilingual services? Are they going to start coming to the elementary school? Just wondering how that works.
That's a great question. There are some people on the call that are in SAU school administrative units where that transition has already occurred and is occurring. And so right now, the pre-K, what we call the early learning and CDS, students that are coming into the school system and come with IEPs who might have already been identified as multilingual learners. We're having conversations around like, should we be screening 3 and 4-year-olds to be identified as multilingual learners? And so those are questions that are surfacing, Heather, right now in these with these younger grades. But right now it's pre-K through 12th grade that we have guidance outlined for screening and identifying multilingual learners.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question.
My group talked. Oh, sorry. My group talked about. It's great that Maine has all these civil liberties and stuff, but we're really wondering about the funding. Like, how is the funding going to be affected by what's going on in Washington?
So are you talking about title funding?
Yes.
So that is in process right now. And so that is a bit of wait and see. And that gets done through our federal programs office. And so that is the piece that's very unnerving, is knowing that typically it's been a pretty clear calculation. It's been anticipated, and we know that we can hire and plan using that. And so that's kind of speaks into what we shared earlier, which is these unknowing communications and funding streams are creating some tension and some challenges for specifically building leaders and SAU leadership, because you're talking about livelihoods, you're talking about people's careers and positions, and you're talking about the important needs of our students and families. So I don't really know how to answer that other than, yes, it's difficult, and we are informed at the state level, which then the state level informs your superintendents, who then inform the leadership teams that really do look at that and look at those funding streams.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Tori had a question in the chat that just says, can we share this Padlet with our coworkers? Yes. This is really important. This is this idea of like crowdsourcing, and we're putting information out for you all. And so part of this is that shared responsibility. So these materials are open access. We will have more open access materials on our website. So that's really exciting, and more to come from Support Ed on that, because you all have interim assignments on that. And so, I think a question too is, how do we ensure that, you're comfortable with your work being shared? And I think that's part of what, we'll talk about with Mindy, which is in the end, that can be removed and put in something separate that's just for you all. And then that Padlet can be enduring and be put on our website. But for right now, it's yours and you can use it. But I just wanted to make that caveat as well. I see a lot of excellence, a lot of little clapping hand emojis. So yay, that's great. And I think part of, what's exciting about being here together. So I am going to just share my screen again. So I really love to be able to see you all when we're talking. So when we're thinking about what we're doing today and what we're doing in the field, we're really thinking about collaboration and why collaborate. This is a oldie but goodie graphic that's from WIDA. Again, it's the bulletin is linked here. But this really does show visually what is happening, this paradigm shift, and how we are really looking at this idea of shared responsibility among all the different roles and responsibilities that there are in our school systems and in our communities. And so one of the things that surfaced, Rebecca Carey, who's here today, she's one of our Teacher Leader Fellows. She is supporting a collaborative learning series with the book Unlocking Multilingual Learners' Potential, which is written by Diane Stayer-Fenner, who is one of the co-founders of Support Ed, which is organizing this series for you all. And one of the things that surfaced was, are we even clear about what the word collaboration means? And so how do we take that and really start there with a common co-constructed definition? So whether it's you as a classroom teacher with your students, or a team, or a building principal, or an instructional strategist, or a superintendent, how are we together defining that? And I think it's really important just to acknowledge that sometimes is a very common misstep, is that we say, well, we have collaboration time. And people scurry to the room, and then everyone's like, well, what do we do? And then we do what we do best. We talk about kids, right? We talk about things and got to get this done and this done. And that's kind of the idea of collaboration. But there's something that could be more. There's something that could be more explicit, perhaps more intentional, more pointed. And that's where thinking about what does that really mean? And who needs to be at the table? And if I'm a leader, how do I create structures and systems to make sure it happens? So that's something that we really wanted to highlight here today, and also be thinking about, what are some district approaches that are happening? So people will say, Jane, tell us what other districts are doing. How are they doing things? How can we learn from them? And so this was a bit of a show and tell, if you will, of really what's happening across the state through district approaches. And I think we have a few people on the call today who could speak on behalf of this, if you're open to that. But really looking at whole system structures of multiple tier systems of support to ensure that every staff person understands how to structure their experiences for language learners, for multilingual learners. And some of that happens through a very systematized training through SIOP, which is a sheltered instructional observation protocol approach. That is pretty intensive, requires a lot of training and funding. But we also need to recognize that there's something that is as useful called the PLUS framework. It's free, it's on our website. It's a bit more shortened, and it can be put into place in many different ways. So if it's like, well, we don't have the money for that, we're too small, we don't have a leader who believes in this, we need to go into, okay, what's the next plan? What's the next plan? It can never just be like, there's nothing we can do. So that's the exciting piece here, is that we've seen lots of iterations across the state. High quality instructional materials. How are people making those decisions? How are they being implemented? We're seeing lots of great examples across the state and how people are doing that. And we're hoping to support local levels in those decision-making processes. And you can see here too, the resources we've put out, the evaluation tools that we've been doing as a Maine Department of Ed with Loud Plan templates, programming, audits, checklist tools. We have WIDA, which is our consortia that we belong to. And they have not only our tests that we talk a lot about, the English Language Proficiency Assessment, which is called WIDA Access or WIDA Alternate Access. It's much more than that. There are all sorts of professional learning options where you can design flipped classroom style PD, whole group PD, asynchronous done individually, teams. So we also are wanting to collaborate with higher education. They should be able to have their graduate and undergraduate students partaking in the WIDA professional learning. We need those incoming pre-service and in-service teachers to be learning best practice that aligns to Maine's English language development standards and what we know is best for multilingual programming. And so this is exciting, and we wanted to ensure that you all knew these are some things that are happening across the state and ways that we can build from one another and find those pockets of success and spotlight districts that are doing that well. We also have some professional learning series that are happening through our Teacher Leader Fellows. This is another opportunity to really highlight what you all are showing us, which is here's a series called Beyond Compliance, Integrating Supports for Multilingual Learners with Disabilities. Some of you might be partaking in this. But the big takeaway here is look at all the roles and responsibilities who signed up for this. We have 62 people registered, 9 counties represented, 25 specific roles. And Rebecca's session as well, hers has 13 counties represented, same number of roles and responsibilities. So the good news is it's not just ESOL teachers showing up to the work anymore. We've got all sorts of people like you all on this call and in this series who are saying we all need to be doing this. We all need to learn together, and we're better together. And so this is another example. So we just want you to know that being in these spaces where there's lots of different voices at the table is what's going to move the work across our state, and we know it's already happening. Yes, can students with the maine.edu email access WIDA? Yes, they can. That's through the Maine WIDA website, the state of Maine, or the state page. That's so exciting. I agree, Tori. I'm on the professional learning committee at WIDA, and that was one thing that I really advocated for was we need to be sharing this with higher education. So yay, and yes, we're working with higher ed to share that as well. So the gist here with collaboration, and many of us are understanding, doing this work, and we want to be sure that you have these slides, you have this information. So the gist of collaboration is that today's schools are more culturally and linguistically diverse than ever. Multilingualism is the new norm, and maybe it's not even new. It's the norm. It's 2026. What we need as educators in the field today is different than maybe when we got certified 20 years ago. So it keeps us current, and we know that English proficiency cannot be viewed as a prerequisite. They can't be with the ESOL teacher until they speak enough English to come join the expedition or the great science experiment happening. We know that this has to be happening simultaneously. Language develops through learning when students are supported and they have access to the richest curriculum, and that teachers share the responsibility. Remembering, though, why we have a LAU plan. It doesn't mean that inclusion at all cost. We're going to put kids in classrooms and just wish for the best. That's not what we're doing. So this is the important thing. What we do for students who are non-multilingual learners is not sufficient for our multilingual learners. And so it's a both and I think that's the piece sometimes that is challenging, is that we say these things, but how do we do that? So what we've attempted to do at the state, once again, is we've tried to say, okay, what are the guideposts? What are the pieces that we have to have people fully understand? So we created this resource, and it is on the Multilingual Learner website that I had put in the chat earlier. And this is a downloadable. You can download this, you can share it, you can take it to team meetings, you can take it when you're looking at school schedules. But what the gist here is that students with lower proficiency levels at that beginning entering level, they need more time with that direct explicit instruction. There's no getting around it. And my great friend and colleague Allison Perkins says it so well. It's language learning is time-based and it's immersive, Jane. Nothing you do will change that. And so that's just this calling of we can't rush students through this process. We have to acknowledge it's time-based, but it's not a forever. There are checks and balances of progress monitoring. And that's what we are required to do. And we'll talk more about like roles and responsibilities for that. So this enables us to look at what is recommended programming for different proficiency levels. And how do we determine the proficiency levels? Who does that? Those are the questions of roles and responsibilities that we want to take us into our next series of breakout rooms to talk about, because that's oftentimes where we're all on the same page. Yep, we agree with all of this. But then when we get into our schools, it's like, well, who does what? And what if kids have an IEP and they're a multilingual learner and they need an intervention and they're in 4th grade and they need to do 4th grade curriculum? It's like all of these pieces. And it's like, how do we come to the table and look at what the student needs holistically and work together as a team? And that requires time. And a lot of people will say, we don't have time. And that can't be our final answer. That is a system structure flaw. That's MTSS. That's building leadership. That's what we need to be building. And it's not going to happen overnight, but we have to just acknowledge that without that, we can't do our work and really support the growth and development linguistically for our students. So that takes us to roles and responsibilities. So this document I'll put in the chat, and this is another outcome of some really great collaboration with our teacher leader fellows and with the field. And we said, what are you needing and wanting in a resource document that really outlines the roles and responsibilities that exist for really robust multilingual programming? And so we put this together, and what we'd like for you all to do in your breakout rooms is to really think about this document and to really think about, well, what's my role? And when I did this with elementary, people were like, I have like 4 roles, Jane, right? So this is real. So, but this is where it's like, let's just name it. And what are your roles? And you might just not tuck into one little category. You might be all over the place. But again, that's naming it and kind of doing this diagram, if you will. So we're going to get into our breakout rooms, talk about your role. Where does it land on this document? Is it missing? Do we need to revise and edit this document? And we also know that like good leadership is iterating, doing things again and again and making them better. So open to your feedback. And what's been your success? So thinking about, this is my role, and what do you see that's really worked? And then be thinking about this part about, where are these like subtle and maybe not so subtle opportunities to collaborate, right? So like your wish list, if only we could. So in the breakout rooms, you want to stay in this place of reality, but don't go down the path of like gloom and doom, right? Be real, and then back out and say, okay, system and structure, what is it we could do that would provide a bit of an opening, a small move to enable us to potentially do something different? Okay, so I'm going to open up the rooms. You're going to go into the same rooms again, and we're going to probably do about 8 minutes. I think the last time was 10, and that was a good amount of time. So 8 minutes, you know each other, you've done the introductions, and just take some time with this document and talk about roles and responsibilities, okay? So I'll open that up. If there are any other questions, please let me know. So welcome back. So what do people think? What came up? What were some places of success potentially that you're seeing in your role? And then where are those opportunities that you all maybe discussed or shared? Put in the chat or come off mute.
Something rather simplistic that I had mentioned in our group. My school district is, and I don't know how many y'all think this, but the early release days that sometimes we get. I was in a district that was like an early release day once a month. I'm now in a district that does it still consistently once a week. Um, my understanding is that there is talk at the school of them no longer doing early release days for professional development for us anymore.
Okay.
When we're talking about like we need more time, more time, more time, more time, um, in our discussion, I'd said like, oh, what if like it would be great if we just had like once, maybe twice a semester, even where one of those like you do a full day PD, but not like going off to have a guest speaker that costs thousands of dollars that just basically says like you can do it, or this random X, Y, or Z event, but like give us a day to crosstalk, not just like work in your departments, please work at your grade level, but working across with all these structures that you just discussed with the other stakeholders that are responsible for these multi-language learners. Let us talk about the WIDA scores across these disciplines instead of feeling sequestered. So just that idea of, well, if we need more time, and just knowing that my schedule might change soon. Well, if one of your departments is changing a schedule, something is shifting for next year, be an advocate for maybe that idea of let's get some PD time that is like across our areas and get all the stakeholders involved here. So that was what we discussed briefly.
Thank you, Kyle. That's really exciting. I saw a lot of head nodding, a lot of people like, yes, yes. Anyone want to build off that, or any topic that came up that was different from professional learning and time?
Well, we talked about that in our group too. That first of all, it seems like the ML teachers feel very isolated. There's not a lot of collaboration going on. And then the second part of that is our regular ed teachers have not gotten any training. And there's sort of that thought that, you know, if a student's struggling, if it's ML, you let the ML teachers handle it. And if a student's struggling in the special ed, let the special ed department handle it. So, you know, that sort of attitude of sort of not my problem. But I also think the teachers are super busy and they haven't had the training and they're just trying to keep their heads above water as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Barbara. I'm going to put someone on the spot here to talk a little bit about this. Steve, not sure if you're comfortable or able to come off mute, but just to talk a little bit about what you've done in your leadership role around time training and shared responsibility, because I think it's pretty remarkable. And so just give you a little airtime.
Yeah, come from Stanford assistant superintendent, and so we've had, over the past number of years, we've had an influx of new MLL students. We've gone from one staff member to now we have 5.5. And so that has lent itself really to some great collaboration amongst those teachers. With that, I think when we think about this, it's about changing the mindset of all staff, and they're all our kids. And so the practice 5 or 6 years ago, it was the nurse needs immunizations for a MLL student. They tracked down our one MLL teacher and had her sit with her and to make that call. That's highly inefficient and not the way we want to do things. And so working with staff, giving them that comfort level of, okay, this is how you reach out to an MLL family. This is, if you need translation, this is how you can access the translator. And really training not only our teachers, but our front office staff, our nurses, our school counselors, just changing that mindset so it's all kids, and you're responsible for all kids. Now, it's not that way with everybody. There are still some people who need support and guidance or don't know how to do certain things, but try to provide them with support with that. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. Oh, and the other thing I would say in terms of collaboration, I think we don't have a separate MLL coordinator district-wide. And so that's part of the role I play. But I think it's been really, really beneficial to partner with the curriculum director in terms of looking at the programming that we have and for MLL students, making sure that that program is aligned to our regular programming, and then vice versa. We've made a major shift with our elementary reading instruction, and we moved to a program that was designed with our MLL students in mind with that. So I think that that's another piece or another nugget that I think is really important. So it's not just teacher to teacher collaboration, it's also department to department collaboration within a school department. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. And I hope you're okay with me putting you on the spot. But it's really nice to highlight places and spaces across the state that are making intentional moves. And Steve did a really great job of just how it's all of us. And even, just front office, right? Administrative assistants, enrollment, nurses, bus drivers. And that's bigger than an individual teacher. And so that's the piece that's so important. And that's why this graphic, I'm sure it could be better, but it's like we're trying to make everyone on it and keep it one page. But, there are things here that are just like, it's all interconnected and we can't do everything, but what is it we're going to prioritize? And what's the arc of that prioritization? And whose role and responsibilities are happening? And then really like that reflection, and then what's our next step? And so I think that that's a piece of this, and it's really uncovering a bit of that, and really having some models. And so thank you for sharing, both of you, Kyle and Steve, as well as hearing from, and I'm forgetting your name, I'm so sorry. Barbara, who spoke earlier. So we can continue to share out, we can put that in the chat, but thank you so much for the time to really look at that document and to think about how you might map that for yourselves, and doing a roles and responsibilities document for your staff, for your teams. And really it's been a really great exercise for us to think about that. So this is a graphic here that we've used quite a bit, again, to really think about these distinct roles and responsibilities and how some of the topics within each of these is cross-cutting, like the role of MTSS, and whose job is it to update and revise and iterate the LAU plan and provide that to the school board. Who's designing school-based priorities, who's leading that, building that mindset and that culture. And then our teachers and our teams are really at this granular level. Who's designing what we call the individual language acquisition plan, this plan and map that gives us guideposts for language goals in our 4 domains of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And are we progress monitoring those more than just one moment in time with our WIDA and our alternate access? Our access and our alternate access. And that's really important at the bottom here. Assessment data has to be intentionally triangulated. We cannot be making programmatic decisions on one data point. And this is very important. So then it's like, what are the other data points we're using? What are the other formative assessments? How are we calling in different groups of people and empowering them to feel that their data is really important too? You're with these students more than one summative assessment is. So it's all of it. But I think that collaboration model is a piece of it. And then I really think the highlighting this communication with students and families. And that gets into a system structure. How are we communicating with all families, regardless of language? And language, understanding language, whether it's interpretation, translation, doing what we call cultural brokerage to basically make these bridges between our U.S. school system, what's happening in our schools, and what's happening at home and prior experience, and how are we bringing in their funds of knowledge the things that these families and students bring with them that are important for us to acknowledge and to leverage. So this graphic is really helpful to break that down in those roles and responsibilities. And when we think about an individual language acquisition plan, again, this is a level setting, but we want to ensure that you all know there are resources on our website. Rebecca Carey, who is on the call today, a Teacher Leader Fellow, led this series earlier in the fall. And it's really about what is an individual language acquisition plan, who develops it, how is it developed, where is it kept, who's supposed to be in charge of it, how is it communicated. All of these bits and pieces are critically important, and these resources here that you'll have access to when you have the slides are just the presentation, the videos, and just these documents, because this plan is required, and oftentimes it's the multilingual or the ESOL teacher who is designing the plan, but it is integral to the instruction and to the work of all staff who's instructing and working with students. So that gets back to that collaboration and what Kyle talked about. Where do we get to cross walk? Where do we get to talk about these things and really think about their goals, and how can we do that together? So that's available to you all on the DOE website, and also with these great resources. The other thing we wanted to be sure to highlight while we were all together is really about the required commitment under our ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act state plan. And this is a requirement that we have as a state agency to determine what is expected English language proficiency growth. And this comes back to, how do we know what we're doing is making a difference? Are these kids really like on target? Are they where they need to be? And so I'm like seeing a lot of head nodding. It's like, if you've ever thought of that, it's just like, it's this nebulous thing, right? Like, are they, is that good that they only went up 1 point? What does that mean? They've been a multilingual learner since kindergarten and they're in 7th grade. Like, is that typical? What should we be aiming for? So I think that this is really important, because this is what the state agency, the Maine Department of Education, has determined for you all. And so we're all in this together. The state is held to the same accountability measure as our local level. And I really think that's so important. So in our ESSA state plan, the state of Maine has said that multilingual learners, and again, English learners, multilingual learners are used synonymously because that's used in the federal language of English learners. They're expected to reach English language proficiency in 3 to 6 years, pretty broad range, depending on their initial levels of proficiency. This is based off of research, Stephen Krashen, language acquisition, that we know that language learning is time-based, and it can be anywhere from 1 to 3 years for that basic interpersonal playground conversation, and 5 to 7, really, for that more cognitive, academic, language of school, literacy-based reading and writing. So Maine says the 6-year maximum is based on Maine's definition of what we call a long-term English language learner. Asset-based language is experienced multilingual learner, where this English learner has been identified for more than 5 years. So what that means is that we really have a benchmark from time that they've enrolled and the proficiency level in which they enrolled with. We are making this commitment to annually monitor. And this is where our WIDA access and our WIDA alternate access come in. And we're monitoring that, and we're calculating their exit, their targeted exit date. And the exit means the reclassification. When will they meet parity of their English speaking peers in listening, reading, speaking, and writing? And that's recalculated every year. And so at this point in time, this graphic here is really helpful because it really shows you that when students enter our schools and they're screened and they have a composite score of 1 to 1.9 or 1 to 2, you can see that more time is given to that student to show English language proficiency because it's time-based. Rather than if the student entered in with higher levels of English, we would say you'll have less time needed to meet that target. So the good news is that we have ways and mechanisms now on our data dashboard that your superintendents have access to. And the superintendents at the local level give permission to coordinators, to assistant superintendents, to your curriculum coordinators. They determine, local level control in Maine, determine who has access to really look at your English language proficiency growth. It's available to you now. And you can look at how students are doing. Are they on track? Are they off track? Where are they making growth? What domains? What schools are they in? What are the profiles of those kids? So all of a sudden now, we've got access to a bit more what we call disaggregated data to really think about, is what we're doing programmatically, instructionally, systems and structures wise, making that difference? And when I reference WIDA, I'll put that in the chat as well, but this is a graphic that just shows you the state of Maine. Every state determines what is the score. Where students meet that score or higher, they have now been what we call exited or reclassified. They no longer need that in addition to English language development instruction. It's not an intervention, it's tier 1. It's additive to what they are learning. So there's an alternate access, which is for any student with an IEP who also is identified with significant cognitive disabilities. These are for students who take alternate assessments. It's an IEP team decision. The IEP team needs to include an ESOL teacher. They have to be at the table when we're working with a multilingual learner with an IEP. That determination of taking that alternate assessment, you'll see the score at the bottom. It's a different assessment, so it has a different reclassification score. And that was just revised last year and has been put out as our guidance. So I'll pause there for a minute. There's a question in the chat from Barbara. Also want to see if anyone has any questions or comments. Great question. So Barbara, I'll read these, and then I see Meg has a question. If a student has been on monitor for 2 years, are they automatically dismissed from the program? So monitor means that once students exit, State of Maine says we monitor. Monitor just means like we're checking in. Are they meeting grade level expectations? It's not just this magic, all of a sudden they get this 4.5 and they're all set, good to go. We want to release that scaffolding. We want to have this off ramp. So it's a contingency plan to say, hey, are they doing okay? How are they doing? Do they need more? Do they need some continued support linguistically? And that can happen. And that's what that monitor is. After the monitoring 2 years is over, yes, they are considered an exited multilingual learner. But they are no longer receiving direct explicit instruction by a 660 ESOL endorsed teacher. And what if they don't meet that criteria and they need longer than 6 years? Students remain receiving services until they show proficiency on the WIDA access or WIDA alternate access assessment. In the state of Maine in 2026, that is the only measure for being reclassified. That is not the case in every state across our country. That is the case in Maine, and we could have a long conversation about that. But right now, at this moment in time, there is a very concrete, clear decision that that is the metric. That metric has changed over time. When I first started teaching, it was a 6.0. You needed to receive a 6.0 in order to be reclassified, the highest there was, because the thinking was like, Why wouldn't we want them to have the absolute best and give them all the support they need for as long as they need? Well, what we did is we crosswalked that to how are students performing? At what level do students need that level of support in order to meet state expectations? And the good news here is that we went from a 6 to a 5 to a 4.5, because what we were recognizing is that the students who were receiving this instruction, they exited. These students are still today outperforming students who were never identified as multilingual learners. So what that says is that direct, explicit instruction specific to language is essential, and it's probably essential for every single student to be looking at the function of language. So they continue, Barbara. And the question is, why have they not made that adequate growth in that 5-year time frame? That's what teams need to look at. So Meg, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I had a similar question to Barbara, but we don't have to rehash that. But I guess just to say, like, as you're mentioning, that's if a student doesn't exit after 6 years, that's what the teams need to look at. I'm just curious, like, if there is any like official guidance about that, because I feel like that's something that I bump up against a lot, which is like when we really look at how long the student has been in this program, what do we need to be doing differently for the student? And then like the flip side of that being, especially for like dual identified students with IEPs, like if like you were mentioning students who achieve a 4.5, like are in many cases like outperforming or, you know, performing even better than native English speakers or folks who didn't take the access test, like, is that a realistic metric to really be holding some of our dual identified students to, especially since the alternate access is only available to students with like disabilities that are like classified or like considered the most serious level of disability? Like, is achieving a 4.5 really a realistic thing for like all of our dual identified students? That's my first question. And then my other question, and again, you like alluded to this, but I really appreciated that you mentioned that the access score is just one formative assessment and should be considered out of many. And I don't want to like go down a rabbit hole if this is, I'm sure it's a bigger discussion, but then it does get really complicated, because then considering like the programming that students have access to and their course offerings, it is based on that one formative assessment in terms of whether they need to be in ESOL classes or not. So yeah, just like it would be so amazing if we were able to consider other like data points in that decision.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Meg. Lot to share on that. I would say that really what we want to be thinking about is we should never be programming students on one data point. So that's really important. And I think having collaboration, having deep levels of professional development, having collegiality and understanding of what's being determined, that is not the spirit of the law. The spirit of the law is to really ensure that we are scaffolding and supporting and providing meaningful access and equal programming. And so this is really important. And this is something that is, constant ongoing work. And so to your point, Meg, I think that what we, talking about students who are dually identified, those are students who are identified as multilingual learners, and they also have IEPs. What is essential and what we know is not necessarily always happening is, again, back to time. Are our special educators and ESOL teachers collaborating and working together to support these students? And when we look at students who are not making that adequate growth over time, the role of MTSS. So we back into systems and structures before we look at what's wrong with the kid. or what's wrong with the assessment, because those are conversations and they're valid, right? There's always going to be conversations that focus on student level, assessment level, choices. But I do think that recognizing it's not just about the score on the access test, it's about the 300 and some other, or 200, whatever the calendar day is of school, all those other days. And I know, having worked with students, the test matters and it's hard. And we don't have any other assessment that solely focuses on English language growth and development. NWEA doesn't do that, DIBELS doesn't do that, iReady doesn't do that. They're not designed for language standards and growth and development. And so I think that really looking at, if you have a lot of students who are multilingual learners with IEPs on your caseload, we have incredible resources. We have a great series happening right now to ensure that both the special educators, the ESOL teachers, and the grade level or discipline teachers are working together to fully understand the goals that are language-based and the goals that are disability-based. And so I think it's a really big conversation and one that I would leave us with. And please go into your breakout rooms and talk more about this, because this is real. This is not easy work. But the work here for us to think about is, what is the programming that we're providing? And are we progress monitoring goals that are set out in the individual language acquisition plans? So that would be my first question, is what are the students' goals? Do people know what the goals are? Do they know how to take a goal and then turnkey that into instruction? Turnkey that into formative assessment? That's what support ed is building out for us, is tools in which to do that. Because oftentimes we don't go into the instruction because it's already been done and we're kind of on to the next thing, or we don't have time, or we're asked to modify an assignment, 2 hours before it's being given to the student, or to modify an assessment, to change it. And so we want to think about that language too. We're not modifying, we're not simplifying, we might be amplifying. And so again, it's like, how do we keep the rigor and support through the language? And that's, I think, what Mindy brought out last time as well, is this amplification, which is this really, really important aspect of what we do that a lot of people are new to and need much more support doing. That would enhance that work. So I'm going to encourage us now to go into breakout rooms, because I do think, continue this conversation, right? Continue the conversation around the students you're working with. Are they making growth? Do you know if they're making growth? Do you have what, like Meg said, a lot of long-term multilingual learners? By middle school and high school, that's what teachers inherit, right? They come to you and they've been in the school system since pre-K or K. So now you're kind of like, what do we do? How do we address that? What does this really mean? And again, recognizing it's one data point. So what are the other data points telling us? And so what we thought would be helpful right now, with our time remaining, is going back into our breakout rooms and doing one of three things. One, I'm going to put a document in the chat. It's called Making Meaning. It's a resource that's on our website. It's pretty accessible for many teachers who are potentially learning about language domains, ways to scaffold instruction through listening, reading, speaking, and writing. And we call them interpretive skills, and then the expressive skills. And so this document is one that we have found to be really accessible for people. The other piece that you can look at in your breakout rooms is the Padlet, some of the interim activities. If you have an interim activity that you want to share, with someone in your breakout room and just share an aha, something that came out of it. They're amazing. I've been reading them and I'm like, they're amazing. And what you're learning through the application of that scaffolding template, share it. Share it with your team, with the breakout room. And the third thing is like riff off what we just talked about. Go into the room and just be like, let's talk about growth and development. Are we using data? What data do we use? Do we have time to even do data dives? Is that just something we talk about? So those are 3 things that you all can talk about in your breakout rooms. Again, just time to be together and what's landing. So I'm going to put the document that I just referenced that you can see on the screen. This is on our website, and this is something that you can choose to look at and to discuss with your breakout room. The Padlet, the interim assignments, if you want to share something that stood out for you or something that you're currently working on. And otherwise, you can also continue to talk about assessment and data. And so we thought we'd round out the rest of the time for about 8 minutes or so in breakout rooms, and then we'll come back, and then we'll just take a minute to look at your next session with Mindy. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Oh, I'm echoing. Here we go. Thank you all for your incredible participation and for showing up to do the work and to be here today. Any last comments, words, anything that surfaced from your conversation or something you'd like to leave with the group before we just close out with dates for next session? Any takeaways that you'd like to share?
One thing I'd like to say is I thought this was very helpful to go over, all this just background information about WIDA, about access, about was not aware that there was that they've created an alternative assessment for students with IEPs, that their citizen letter, I'm sure I've come across that in my schooling prior to today, but for some reason it escaped me. So just to be able to circle back and be able to take a few minutes after this session and be able to look at that again and refamiliarize myself with that, it's been very helpful. And one other thing that I thought was really great was when we go into our breakout sessions that we keep going back to the same group of people, because I felt like initially our first time we got the meetings information and where we're from out of the way, and so that each time when we go back to the same group, we're able to kind of pick up conversations or feel more comfortable sharing with the people that were in our group. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you, Nicole. And you got a little thumbs up from Mrs. English, I think it is. Couldn't see who that was. Thank you. Anyone else?
I agree with what she was saying about going to the same group, because I felt like in past meetings, everything's been so fast and we never really introduced each other, and then we would get swept to another group. So I liked starting out with introductions and then just going back and being able to continue conversations or talk about those things. So I was giving her a thumbs up because I agree.
Thank you. Well, I'm looking at the time and I can stay on for a long time. I love this work. I'm happy to collaborate and talk. And I also want to respect that it's 4:59. So I just want to leave you with the next session with Mindy will be on April 9th. And that will be from 3 to 5. If you have already done your interim activity number 2, you are all set. And again, Mindy was really clear, you're not getting graded. It's not that you won't, get your salary or contact hours. It's really about our own edification and our time together and the work. And then this, what I call this crowdsourcing, this idea of learning from each other. There's incredible expertise on this call and in these cohorts, and we want to share that with each other.